Building a Better Broward Podcast with your host, Greg Brewton.
So hello, thank you. We're having another episode of Building a Better Broward with GBA. And with me today, I want to bring a dear friend of mine who I've worked with for a number of years and who I respect tremendously in her knowledge and expertise in helping build a better Broward. And with me today is, I want to make sure I pronounce it, even though I've known you for years, I always have a hard time with your last name.
I can count the different ways you said my last name.
I probably said it 10 different times.
Motorhome. Motorhome. Moron. But you didn't mean it. I know you didn't mean it. I said you could say.
I'm going to try it. Jenni Morejon.
Perfect.
All right. So Jenni, I want to talk to you this morning about, first of all, thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule, because I know it's busy. I've been around you, and I know you have a very busy schedule.
I don't know. Yours might be busier than mine nowadays. So.
You know, I thought I would just ride off into the sunset, but somehow that just doesn't work for me at all. Yeah. And so I'm excited about the things that I'm involved in, and particularly some of the things that I'm involved with you.
Yes.
And the DDA. And your position in the DDA of managing that whole district and making sure that the vision of the redevelopment of the downtown is done in a manner that's consistent with the vision of the city of Fort Lauderdale and the DDA board as it exists today. So I want to talk to you about our involvement early on with the city of Fort Lauderdale. Before you got to the DDA, and you went on to be the director of the division of, I think at that time it was sustainable development.
That's right. Some pretty big shoes I had to pull there.
And that division, that department encompassed planning and zoning, building services, economic development, community redevelopment,
and code
enforcement, which is always a challenge. Talk to me about that experience that you had coming into the city. And I know you came here from Colorado.
That's right.
And you've embraced this South Florida area and you've helped it grow to be what it is today. And I want to thank you for that. But let's talk about how was that experience to you? How did you feel in taking on those challenges?
Okay. It's amazing to sit here with you. So thank you for inviting me. It's always just so nice when we get to sit and talk, and, you know, so many lessons I've learned from you, and to be in your office now, right here in a close area where I kind of got my mark in Fort Lauderdale. Moved down to South Florida after I graduated college. Wanted to be a single, independent young woman.
Yes.
And I wanted to get a master's degree in architecture at because I grew up, you know, cheering for the Canes, but didn't kind of play that way. I met who's my husband now about 2 weeks in at a Miami Dolphins game. But I was working out at the Cheesecake Factory, and that was the hot new thing out at Sawgrass Mills. It was 99. I was looking through the ads. I found an entry-level job with the city, called. They gave me an interview. I'd been working out there as a host, and I quit on the spot. I didn't even have the interview yet. I just said, I drove through. I said, I'm going. Got a job on a temporary position as an assistant planner, and we worked on a project called community area planning.
That's right.
We would sit in a car, two of us, and drive up and down every single neighborhood. And we started primarily in District 3. And, you know, got to really see what the fabric of the city was like. And the whole plan with that was understanding the existing conditions, but then having a lot of community meetings, sit downs, sometimes one-on-ones, you know, meeting in people's homes, meeting at community centers, and talking about what goals did they have for their neighborhoods. And it was really impactful to me. I had never worked in public sector.
Right.
I did an internship in college for kind of like a business improvement district in Colorado, but you know, it was personal at that point, because, you know, people are telling you how maybe their grandparents lived in this city, how they want their grandchildren to live in this city, what opportunities they have or what they don't have. And so I learned a lot then and there. And we also worked with a lot of different departments.
Yes.
So I got to really meet a lot of great leaders in the city organization at the time, even though you and I think were in different departments when I first started.
Started out, we were in different departments, but it's strange how your journey kind of resembles the one that I had when I initially came to the city, because we did what we call a demographic survey of the area.
Yeah.
So we had to walk the streets, myself and a guy by the name of Bill Strack, and then also at the time, a planner who was with me, who is now, very well, Doug Egan.
That's right.
So we were walking the communities, we were talking to people, and it's amazing how when you do that, when you have that interaction with everyday folks, you're not sitting in an office trying to determine the destiny of an area, but you're actually going out, having an opportunity to talk to folks. What do you want to see happen? How do you see yourself as being a part of this growth that's coming?
That's right.
And it kind of gives it a whole different flavor, doesn't it?
I felt very responsible at that point, that I had to take that to the next level, whether it's the, department directors or the city administration and ultimately the mayor and commissioners. We had to translate what that feedback was like from the neighbors. Now they get it all the time, mayor and commissioners, they get those phone calls, but there's a lot of parts of Fort Lauderdale where people don't have that access directly to City Hall, as we say, so I think it was really meaningful to me at that point. And some of that did translate into other projects. There was the Waterworks 2011 project where the city intended to, take out all the septic tanks and replace it with sewer systems for neighborhoods. At that time, I actually left the city after a few years
I remember,
because I wanted to see what other opportunities there were and work for Cheryl Dickey.
That's right.
And
I remember that.
we were doing a project both for Waterworks 2011 for the city and for Broward County. And I'm looking at your photos here, walking, like you just said with Doug, doing door hangers to let neighbors know your street's going to be torn up next week. I had a lot of interesting conversations. I had a lot of interesting offers.
Yeah, because people don't really understand.
I got to know.
Yeah, and it's new to them, and they're like, some are intimidated by it, and some want to know. But for us to be able to bring that information to the community and have those honest conversations, I'm quite sure you had some very open and honest conversations with the people within the communities who said either they didn't want to see it happen, they wanted to see it happen, or what's happening.
Change is hard. And if they don't know, if they don't have, a lot of times churches were the conduit for people to understand what was going on in neighborhoods, or, whether it was the Y, the old LA Lee, those centers. But also then, some of the interesting places we'd go, we'd give pizzas in other neighborhoods and go around. And we moved from district to district. So you really got to see how, the city's made up of the people. It's not just the places. And when you're a planner and you think about buildings and development, getting that people first, I think really helped me with my sense of connection to the community.
And one of the things that you and I worked on very aggressively was the downtown.
Yes.
And the vision of the downtown. And me growing up here, remember when it was McCory's, that was the downtown, and I remember the tennis court. You heard me speak about this in the past. There wasn't a whole lot in the downtown, and the vision was to create a downtown where you live, work, and play, and to create a downtown that would be embracing all of Broward County.
That's right.
And Fort Lauderdale, to your credit, has developed its downtown to be recognized as one of the greater downtowns in this country. You want to talk about how that vision, how it was?
My dad always says, I'd rather be lucky than good, but I know what he means is you got to be pretty darn good and then when luck comes, it's even better. And so, well before my time, with your leadership and others, the entire zoning rewrite. That really said, we're not just going to have residential zoning districts or commercial. Residential wasn't even allowed.
That's true.
Before 89.
Very true.
And there was no, they were commercial districts.
Right.
So, taking that big, bold step to look at citywide rezoning with your leadership and others in the day, 10 years later, when I kind of got involved, 10, 15 years later, with the downtown master plan, the zoning was already in place.
Right.
Now it's, okay,
Mhm.
what's this actually going to feel like, look like?
Mhm.
You know, what's that experience going to be just because the uses are allowed?
Right.
Right. So that downtown master plan, that gave kind of that certainty to the developers, but also to city elected leaders and the residents to say, it's going to be big. This is where we want the density and the intensity.
Yes.
But here's how it can grow
Right.
in a way that makes sense for this 2 square mile area.
Right. And the downtown core was featured as the core of Fort Lauderdale in the downtown area. And I recall back when we were designing these codes and we were putting them in place to be implemented, the message was, let's do this because we don't want to stay where we are today. We want to see it evolve into something much greater than what we have. And sometimes when you talk to individuals within the community, they're kind of surprised by what's going on. And you have to say, this has been planned for years. I recall back in the 70s when, we were looking at our downtown and going, Chuck Ritchie and those guys, those planners before me, Bill Roop, and Doug and I, we were young puppies at the time, embracing all of that and making sure that the word got out. But what's happening in the downtown is not a mistake.
No.
It really is
intentional, deliberate
very
in many
intentional.
ways.
Yes, yeah.
And then the luck part is getting, I think it started primarily with the local investors, the local developers, right? The Terry Styles of the world.
Yes.
The locals that really transitioned Los Olas Boulevard west of US 1 into the McTeague. I mean, so many people that you worked with. And I think sometimes we forget to celebrate. You sit on the DDA board. It's so cool to have you as my boss again.
Stop it.
One of 7.
One of 7, that's
but
true.
Still, but to think of, the 50 or 60 DDA board members that have been in those roles that, put their own risk on the table to build, invest, and grow the city. It's been pretty awesome. And now we're reaping the benefits because of so much migration to South Florida in general after COVID of additional new money, new styles, new markets that allow kind of bigger, bolder, better. But you have to start somewhere. And the early projects, on the river and in Flagler Village, Peter Feldman's vision and Alan.
I remember when Peter Feldman was doing this, creating all of the resources that he was able to accumulate with the vision of making this downtown and the surrounding areas evolve to what it's becoming today. And it's visions like that we need to step back and celebrate. The Bob Hebners of the world who it's just so many people that I can just think of who were instrumental in the journey that we've all traveled to see it become what it's becoming. And to also, let's talk about the Huizenga Park. I mean, to me, that's an incredible, I don't want to talk about it. I want you to.
Being in the city, half of the time you were there, I was there about, 16 years? You were there 36?
Yes.
36.
Yes.
It's amazing.
I started when I was 4 years old.
Yeah.
That's why,
I was 7. We got to work on really great projects or policies, and we helped guide, how development was going to happen, but we didn't do it per se. We weren't the Parks and Rec or Public Works out there kind of building something you could touch. We were working through paper and relationships to make things happen. And that's important. There's
absolutely
a real need for that. But now with this park, I mean, it's almost like full circle.
Yeah.
Walking around, literally we were, helping pick some weeds just because we have it. We're opening the park in January and there's parts of it open and it's like you care about it. Like it's your front lawn, your backyard, your place. And to see people actually walk through and experience something that's physically, designed, envisioned, put through, construction contracts and monitored and programmed as a team with board leadership, it's really rewarding. I'm hungry to keep going. And now I can see why, you work on one development in the private sector and it's successful. Everybody had a first.
And
At
I
some
have to,
point,
and
you
I
want
have
to
to,
keep
yeah,
going, right?
I have to commend you, Jenni. You not only took your passion that you have for growth and development, but you've hired a tremendous staff that has that same vision and that same passion. And I commend you for putting together your team like you have done and continue to do.
You showed me that. Seriously, you have showed me that good character, good, approach to relationship and others is, if not the most important, certainly more important than just the capability to get something done. Because you can teach people some technical skills. They can grow. You can't teach them how to act.
That's true.
How to treat others. So I'm really fortunate when we went through so much change at that DSD, you not only, I think, put people around you that were, good people, and I like to think I'm one,
You were,
but also
absolutely.
you gave us a lot of room to run and make change and implement things. And I think that's one of the signs of a good team is you hire the best and you let them do what they're good
Let them do
at.
what they do.
And that's
Because
what you do.
if not, why hire them, right? Why, if you're not going to invest in their talent, in their knowledge and their ability to do things, then why even do it at all?
That's right.
So I've always been of the opinion that you get good people, you get a good heart first.
Yes.
As you said, it's very easy. I mean, it's not easy, but you can train someone in the technical aspect of what, if they have a little bit of understanding about it, you can train them to
Basic
be,
skills.
to understand, the technical part of it. But where's the passion? One of the things that I admire, and I say this again, that you and I have in common, we were able to look at, and although you're doing the DDA, the downtown, but your experience is in all of Fort Lauderdale.
Mm-hmm.
So you take that knowledge and that experience, and you realize that as the downtown grows,
Mm-hmm.
the surrounding area has to be supportive of that.
That's right.
And those areas need to grow as well and be supported to feed into the downtown.
That's right.
Because it's a place of destination. It's a place that we want all of Broward County to enjoy, to come in and experience our downtown, whether you live there or whether you're coming for an entertainment time with the.
And great cities have great neighborhoods.
Yes.
You think of New York with the boroughs, something different for everyone, right? And they all complement one another. Sometimes people don't go to other neighborhoods, but that's what creates the soul of a city. So, you're looking down by Davie Boulevard, you have a strong Latin population. You look at historic Sistrunk, significant historic Black community. You have the Caribbean community here. You have, a mix north of Sunrise Boulevard, closer to Holiday Park of, all different folks, right? Ages, income levels, cultures, backgrounds, and surrounding neighborhoods of downtown. You get a little bit of everything, but it doesn't just go on forever. It's not a Charlotte or Atlanta or, Dallas. So those neighborhoods on all, edges of downtown are just as important to the success of downtown.
And we look at our beach, for instance. I always like to look at the beach, and I'm always admired by what the Takes are doing with the Bahia Mar. And
it's amazing.
It is amazing, isn't it? When you
is.
look at what they have planned for that area, and under the leadership of the District Commissioner Glassman, you look at all of those things being placed into a system where, at the end of the day, our beach, although it's great today, but it's continuing to grow and to be something that, as I said in other segments, as a kid, the beach was small motels and the wet t-shirt spring break area, and for that 2 or 3 week period, the beach was popping, but there was nothing happening after that. And so the businesses were struggling because the businesses came to the city and said, it's great. We do very well during spring break, but we have to survive those other days.
No one lives here. No one's here full time. How do we make our living? I think what's great is, some of the roots of the city will always be, we were having a whole debate of, can Fort Lauderdale ever shake its spring break image? well, maybe it's just evolved its spring break image to, you know, it went into more families. It went to the 5-star, the luxury, you know, and now it's more, it's just a destination that you really want to feel comfortable in. But I think that's great. The beach is amazing. And you think about what the Tates are doing and with Related and going back. I mean, I remember probably 10 years ago when they were first coming in with, you know, other leaders and Sergio Rock and others and sitting at the table. Almost every development at the end of the day is a public-private partnership. But this one in particular, and there's others downtown, we can talk about public-private partnerships. It's so important. You know, it's building trust and relationships. Like we were talking about with staff, you know, you have to feel it. You know, it's a long-term relationship. And when the right people come to the table and there's trade-offs that benefit all, you know, that's where I think you really need it. So.
And that's important in building a community because, you know, we're doing the site of, you know, not near here, where it was a 61-acre site that was at one point the incinerator.
Super fun.
And so many ills that you and I both were in meetings on throughout the years that existed because of the development that was on that property some 45, 50, 60 years ago. And although now it's been capped and ready for development, that's something that we can all be proud of once it's done. Something that was a negative, and you and I have experienced this, you take a negative and make it a positive. And that positive is something that's embraced and enjoyed by an entire area, not just an individual or group of individuals.
That's right.
And I know that's happening in the downtown.
That is.
Can you talk about some of the future things that you see in terms of where the downtown will be within the next 15 years?
I think, you know, taking off on Huizenga Park, great cities, great neighborhoods have good shared spaces, whether that's your streets and sidewalks, you know, your little square, your community park, you know, major parks, major amenities. We talked earlier about the Y and some others, you know, civic centers where people feel it's part of the character of the neighborhood. In downtown, we have, you know, of course, the county government building because it's the county seat, you know, City Hall. We have our performing arts centers and museums, all of these major destinations that serve Broward and beyond. Our parks and open spaces need to be at that same level, that feel that they're open and welcome to everyone. Where right now you go to the main library and the plaza in front of it's been fenced off for over 5 years. The county's doing a you know, renovation of the library. And then next to it is the city Stranahan Park, one of the, you know, oldest parks with a women's club.
That's right.
You know, so how do we take these spaces that are special but underutilized and, you know, not anywhere you and I would go to walk through or have a cup of coffee and really make them crown jewels of the city, of downtown. And I think we've seen that when you invest in these public spaces that people feel safe, comfortable, and there's interesting things happening and they're beautifully designed and maintained. You know, the private sector also steps up and starts to invest around them. So I think moving on into some other public spaces and parks in partnership with the city and other partners is going to be where we can turn those current negatives into a positive. And I'm hopeful. I mean, change is in the air.
Oh, yeah.
You know, whether it's working with the county and looking at how they, you know, build a new facility or at the bus terminal, you know, things that great cities need, transit and government services. How do you make those places the best they can be? We have a jail on the river. Let's talk about redeveloping in front of the jail on the river and make it a place that, you know, brings back economic benefit, but also has a better use.
And your vision in terms of how you see that is important. And that vision is shared by many. Especially our elected officials. And we're very fortunate, I think, in Fort Lauderdale and Broward County to have elected officials who can embrace a vision of growth, smart growth. And I think one of the things that we always were challenged with in the past was growth.
That's right.
And growth isn't bad if it's smart growth, if it's done appropriately and it's done in a manner that protects the impact that it may or may not have on surrounding areas, but in that growth, seeing how that growth can now create opportunities.
That's right.
For individuals, for businesses, for individuals, whether it's residential or commercial, whatever, that all helps in the overall growth of the city.
Change is hard, and for so many people, and I think there becomes this status quo feeling. It's easier to say no to something than it is to get behind it and champion it.
Yeah.
And so, something new comes up on a commission agenda. People think it's the first time it's ever been discussed. But like you said, there's been decades of planning to get there. There's been thoughtful conversations with city planning staff and that developer to think about how to make that project the best it can be.
Yeah.
Hopefully for the developer, but also for the community. So I think this commission over the years has really understood that kind of the map was created to get to this great downtown and great community, and that's why they've been supportive of these quality projects that have added to it. Also, we think of the economic scenario. Downtown Fort Lauderdale annually contributes about $43 billion to the regional economy.
Wow.
Almost 225.
Say that one more time.
$43 billion annually.
Billion and a B?
Billion of economic output.
Yes.
That's all the development, the jobs, the commerce that happens. That puts downtown Fort Lauderdale higher than the economic output of the airport and the port.
Wow.
So it's the top economic engine. And so we're communicating back, do you want to see that economic engine keep churning and producing, traffic? Go to a city that doesn't have traffic. You think that they're producing an economic output that contributes back to, public safety costs and everything else. So I think we have to take some trade-offs. But, I think we're on a solid path. And then there's always the market. We don't control the market.
That's true.
So, when does an elected body want to see development? When the market tanked and nothing's coming out of the ground. But there's waves and cycles, and great cities, they evolve with those waves and cycles too.
I always have to reflect back on a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, who moved here from the state of Michigan. And you probably know who I'm talking about. But anyway.
At least he cheered for a good team.
Go Spartans, right? So he came to me and he said, he bought this condo in the downtown. A condo that was marketed as a place where you live, work, and play. In the core of the downtown, in the energy of a downtown. And he says to me, Greg, I have a problem. I go, what do you mean? He says, well, when I sit out on my balcony, I can hear the cars going by and it's disturbing. And I said, my friend, wait a minute, hold on a second. You realize you're in a downtown core, right? Where it's supposed to be vibrant, energy, things of that nature. If you wanted to sit on a balcony and listen to the birds chirp at night, probably should have moved out west.
Oh yeah, Leisureville up
or somewhere else. You gotta understand to embrace where you've decided to live.
That's right.
This is not a place that you sit around and you sit with a cup of coffee.
But there's also cycles of residents, right? So when, like you were saying, early 2000s, those first buildings, empty nesters, they're moving from maybe the suburbs or other states, and they're one of 10 maybe buildings at that time.
Right.
Now we have 15,000 residential units.
Right.
We have an 80% increase in the number of families with kids.
Yep.
Under 14 is the fastest growing population in downtown.
Wow.
So all these folks that were empty nesters that, kids went away or whatever and they moved downtown, that's great. We need, again, great cities have a mix of age groups and income levels. Yeah. But it's not just that. Yeah. We're seeing young professionals. Half of downtown's population is 25 to 44. Prime working age. Yeah. They're hungry. They want the experiences. The funny thing is, those that complain about growth, we hosted right before you got on the board a meeting at the community meeting to talk about updates to the downtown master plan. And we had about a group of 15, 20 out of the crowd of 50. Too much growth, too much development. This city's growing too fast. The meeting got over. We walked the river walk from the Broward Center. Yeah. They were all at the wharf drinking. They loved it. Hey, we love this place. So, they want the assets and the amenities that come with more population, more density. Yeah. But they wanted some. On their terms. I think that's changing. Commissioners have districts of 50,000 people in a city of 200,000. Of the 50,000, maybe half of them are eligible to vote from age.
Gotcha.
And then of that, what do we get? Maybe 10% if we're lucky that vote. So maybe, you know, I don't know, 2,500 to, you know,
Yeah.
5,000 people vote, but 10 people show up at neighborhood meetings. So like, how do you make sure that just those that show up and have a voice aren't representative of how this entire city should grow?
Right.
Right.
And,
And I think our commissioners understand that.
Yes. And we all, and in fact, we've often said, we want to hear what you think. We want to, your voice is important.
Of course.
I mean, it's just exactly right all the time, but it's
Feelings
important.
are real.
Feelings are real. And I think we've always said that. Feelings are real, and we don't discount your feelings.
That's right.
But when we think about the growth of an area, we're thinking about the growth of
That's right. Big picture,
the
longer
bigger
term.
picture. Longer term, as I said to you, when I was a kid, if you had said to me that we would have as much development in this downtown that I see today, I say, you crazy.
That's right.
I was just going to McCory to get a hamburger. What's the Royal Castle that was on the corner there, or Bird that was, that was the hottest thing there. And so when you think about where we've come, and I think I said this in one of our meetings, I think we have to celebrate that.
That's right.
There's so many positive things that we can pull from what has occurred and what's happening.
And Broward, you're building Broward. We're all building Broward. It's special. The diversity in this community, in the county, we have like 150 languages spoken in public schools.
There you go.
From the Everglades to the beach, from south to north. You don't see that in Palm Beach County. You don't see that in Miami-Dade County at the extent that we have in Broward. And, sometimes having 31 cities isn't the best.
Right.
But it creates a lot of different opportunity, a lot of different neighborhoods that celebrate their culture. And so downtown is everyone's downtown.
That's true.
It's everyone's downtown in Broward. It's not just Fort Lauderdale's.
Yes.
And I think that's what we're trying to create, is that place where you have a mix of restaurants, you have a mix of housing options.
That's right.
I mean, when markets tanked in prior cycles, a lot of entitled development, at least a good handful, turns into affordable housing. That's great. We have folks living on Sistrunk and Andrews Avenue in affordable units that look just like great development that's across the street.
Metropolitan,
That's
for example.
right.
That is a project that I was involved in as well, and you see that, and although you look at it and go, you can't tell what type of development it is in terms of whether it's some affordable, because the units, and that's the thing that the beauty of you and I have been involved in reviewing and approving development. We've always been of the opinion that no matter what type of development, if it's affordable, if it's market rate or whatever it is, it should look and feel the same regardless, because our opinion is that quality of life matters.
That's right.
Doesn't matter if it's affordable housing unit or a market rate unit. The quality of that person's life and what they're going to have to experience on a day-to-day basis should be the same.
Yeah.
You've heard Commissioner McKenzie and I talk a lot about, no matter where you are, everybody drink coffee. Everybody eat donuts. Everybody go to the movies. It's the same. It's the same no matter where you are, no matter what community you're in. The people in that community would like to experience the same level of quality of life.
That's right. It creates pride too.
It creates pride.
Ownership of your community.
Yeah.
When people are proud of the place they're from, their hometown, the place that they've raised their families, that they hope to keep children and grandchildren in the community, there's a sense of pride and personal attachment to it. And I think that's what great cities have too.
And the recreational aspect of it, schools. Sometimes we don't take into account that we reinvest into our schools.
I mean, I talked about the growth in kids.
Yes.
Downtown, we need new options for schools. Public, private, charter, you name it.
Yes.
We're agnostic. You need opportunities for kids to be educated. And I have said every time I get a chance, we can't just build new for those that are here. You look at the 5 or 6 elementary schools that serve downtown. One has a wait list. with
Wow.
700 kids on it.
Wow.
And some of the others are under enrolled to the tune of 50, 40, 60%.
Wow.
You know, we have to lift up those schools while we create new options. And whether it's partnering with our private sector and our
Yes.
business communities, you know, we have Stranahan High School, which for a time was under enrolled as a high
Yes.
school.
Yes.
But we have, you know, the Performing Arts Center and the Florida Panthers
Yes.
and some of these amazing civic places where kids can learn, you know, sports, entertainment, business development, and have the backyard of downtown in these places as their learning laboratory.
Right.
How do we tap into those relationships, partnerships, and P3s from a school system? Because I believe if we that's probably the most important. Everyone wants shopping downtown. We need new retail places.
Yes.
I need somewhere I can buy a pair of shoes if my heel breaks during the day. But you know, we
Or
also
buy a nice dress or whatever, if you want to have something like that, right? Yeah, it's always good to have that kind of stuff. But
stain my shirt. You know, you never know. But you know, education.
yeah,
That's the equalizer. The more that we can provide opportunities for young kids, I mean, that's going to be it. And I know the DDA board has talked about that. It's hard. It's not easy.
Yeah.
I mean, but there are some examples in other cities where developers, particularly when they're building big mixed use projects or P3s with the, you know, public sector, can incorporate some of that space. And there's a lot of, you know, groups out there, both through the leadership at the school board now. That's a lot more creative than I think we've seen. We have stability there. I think focusing on some new, you know, K through 8, especially in and around downtown. You know, look at these schools. They're physical places that need more investment. You know, how do we look at those valuable properties and create, like you said, maybe from a negative to a positive?
yes. And I think that's what I know, that there's been a large push on some of the developments that I've been involved with to create some kind of training programs to be incorporated with the development. We've partnered with OIC to do that job training and bringing people into the area
That's great.
to enhance their opportunities to have a career
That's right.
outside of whatever they're doing today. And I think that's important, that educational piece, the training piece, the internship. I know we're going to do it across the street with all the other stuff that we're
So
doing.
excited.
You know, all of those things are intended and utilized to help build a community, to help build generational differences. And one of the things that we're proud of to say that the jobs that will be created will be in an industry that really doesn't exist today in the area, you know, the movie making and the music, you know, so those things. And you don't have to be an actor, you know, I think, or a singer. And I think that's the thing that gets there's a miscommunication in terms of the industry itself. Six-figure jobs that will be available to individuals who are coming out of internship programs, maybe out of high school, maybe not, you know, maybe they're in the performing arts in high school, they're doing some of this activity.
Get them in middle school.
Get them in
That's when kids are crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, we have to think along as we build a better Broward. How do we incorporate not just bricks and mortar, not just the building itself, but the opportunities that exist within those developments to help build a better Broward? And I want to commend you on all the effort that you made thus far, not only in the DDA. And I think I want to make sure that everybody's understanding and hearing. You had a whole life before the DDA that you invested into Broward County, Fort Lauderdale, to help build that. And I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
And know that I'm always going to be here to support you, my dear.
Good. You're not going anywhere.
I don't
lean
think
on
so.
you.
I'm gonna try to stay around as long as I possibly can. But I do want to thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
And sharing this time with us. And man, I can't believe when we were talking, I remember when you were pregnant with your first kid, and now you're saying that kid is getting ready to senior year?
No, that's the youngest in his senior year.
So that means that the oldest is already out.
He's he's in a technical program here at Broward College, looking to go either into the Marine business, kind of like you were just saying. I mean, nobody realizes how many opportunities in industries that are already here.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't mean you have to be a yacht captain. If you
Right.
want to, you can do that
do
too.
that.
But, you know, there's so many opportunities in the aeronautics, you know, the automotive, the now the entertainment. But yes, the boys are growing.
I like to always say they're getting old, but we're not.
I thought you like to say like a Timex. Take a look
and then keep on ticking. Again, thank you, Jenni, for your time, and I
My
appreciate it
pleasure.
and love you, my dear.
I love you too.